Hello, everyone. This is my immigrant diary. Recently, President Trump increased non-immigrant visa application of H1-B visa to $100,000 per applicant.
Yep.
In reality, this is a hard hit. There's a lot of confusion out there right now, Wally. There's a lot of speculation of what this means and the implication of it. I can tell you from west to north, from south to east, it's all kind of worries, fears. There are people who are on flight disembarking not to leave the US. There are those who are in process to apply, who are confused. There are those who already have existing H1-B visa, who are uncertain of the future. Although there have been a lot of speculation. But one thing I want to share first is why this? Why did the president decide to increase the amount, which is barely a couple of hundred or
like
thousand,
1,000 or something like that?
Yeah, maybe a couple of $1,000 to $100,000 per applicant. In a press statement by the president, I wouldn't read all of the information. I'll put it up somewhere in the link below. You can go read all of the release. But it is said that the H1-B non-immigrant visa program was created to bring temporary workers into the United States to perform high-skilled functions, but it has been deliberately exploited to replace rather than supplement. That is summary what the president's office is saying. And so the reason for the increase is because the H1-B visa, there's so many other information in this article that we'll put the link in our description, like I mentioned. There's a claim that the applicant for this H1-B visa has more than doubled in between 2009 and 2019. But that increase in the application for this non-immigrant visa has not showed direct relationship with the increase in Americans being employed in the fields where these H1 visas are being put in for. So in mostly STEM, science, technology, engineering, and maths. Silicon Valley, medicine, there's a lot of foreign workers being employed, whereas American workers are not being employed increasingly as the visa request is being increased over the years. So Wally, I know you've heard about this gist, but
yes, definitely.
What's your view of all this?
Before I just go into it, just want to say that Precious already mentioned the main reason why we are doing this, because there's a lot of confusion. But we do want to share directly from the source, and we'll give our thoughts about it. Hopefully, it brings a lot more clarity to what's currently going on. So one thing I want to do, I will share my screen. So this is directly from the executive order. So this is the first section 1A. I would say it's a meat of what they want to do. So it says pursuant to sections 212F, 215A of the Immigration and Nationality Act, INA, 8 U.S.C. 1182F and 1185A, the entry into the United States of aliens as non-immigrants to perform services in specialty occupation under Section 101A, 15 H1-B of the INA, 8 U.S.C. 1101A, 15 H1-B is restricted. So, that's why they call it the H1-B visa. So if you're curious. So it's restricted, except from the way I understand it, like they're saying that entry into the United States, if you have an H1-B visa, is going to be restricted, except for those aliens whose petitions are accompanied by or supplemented by a payment of $100,000, subject to the exceptions set forth in subsection C of this section. So you can go to the document, go and read the subsection C to see what the exception is. So if I'm going to take this literally as it is, or at least from what's written here, if you have an H1-B and you have not paid $100,000, you're going to be prevented from entry into the United States. That's simple. That's as simple as you can interpret it, as I'm concerned. Now, I think there's a lot of confusion about where it applies in law, or how it's going to be interpreted by even enforcement agencies. So we'll discuss about that later in this video. But from what I see in this text of the executive order, it says if you have not paid $100,000, if you have H1-B, you're not going to be allowed into the United States. That's what it says. So I'm going to continue from here. And it says this restriction shall expire absent extension 12 months after the effective date of this proclamation, which shall be 12:01 Eastern Daylight Time, September 21, 2021. So they've already implemented it by the day of this recording. The language that they also use in the second part, which says that it's going to expire in 12 months time, which from the way I interpreted it means that you'll be paying $100,000 per year. So this is the meat of this whole executive order. I implore you to go take a look, consult a lawyer if you can, to understand what your rights are and what you can do about it.
So there's a lot of speculation. One of the positive things in all of this was that the USCIS released a statement. I would like to share my screen just so that you can see a brief statement. I'm not going to read all of it, but I'm just going to share a part of it. This is a memorandum from USCIS September 20th. So I'm just going to, similar to some of the things Wale read, but I'm just going to read this section, which says that the proclamation does not apply to aliens who are the beneficiaries of petitions that were filed prior to the effective date of the proclamation, are the beneficiaries of currently approved petition, or are in possession of validly issued H1-B non-immigrant visas. All officers of the United States Citizenship and Immigration Services shall ensure that these decisions are consistent with these guidance. The proclamation does not impact the ability of any current visa holder to travel to or from the United States. This really, when it came out, was really helpful because of the confusion people had when they first heard this. There were people, like I mentioned in the introduction, people on flights out of America, when they heard this, people started disembarking. There was just a lot of confusion, uncertainty. In some countries, it was a major news, and it's still a major news actually. But the good news to some extent is the fact that existing H1-B visa holders are not affected by this proclamation. So with the proclamation, the executive order made by the president to add this $100,000 on H1 visa registration, the good news is existing visa holders are not under the proclamation. So for clarity, this is very useful, and this has come to really put people at rest, especially those who have been confused lately.
Yeah, and in addition, I also share something, additional clarification. The press secretary posted on X this clarification and says, to be clear, this is not an annual fee. It's a one-time fee that applies only to the petition. So that's, for first-time applicants. Those who already hold H1-B visas and are currently outside of the country right now will not be charged $100,000 to re-enter. H1-B visa holders can leave and re-enter the country to the same extent as they normally would. Whatever ability they have to do that is not impacted by yesterday's proclamation. This applies only to new visas, not to renewers, and not current visa holders. It will first apply in the next upcoming lottery cycle. I think that should be next year. So obviously what she's saying is that it doesn't affect you if you are currently a visa holder. But something about X, I'm not sure familiar, you guys out there use X, is that they also have this community notes feature that actually will give information if there is anything that is untrue or contradictory or is not consistent with any kind of thing that anyone is posting, especially whatever the government official is posting. People are going to provide that. So this context is what is provided here, which says that United States Commerce Secretary, who is one of the people that actually helped draft this bill, repeatedly said in Oval Office briefing that this was an annual fee. So this is the part I'm going to get into my opinion now about this. It looks like there is no consistency, at least the way this is rolled out is very confusing to even the White House officials, rather, even within themselves, that one person says it's annual, another person says it's not annual. So it's definitely going to be confusing for everyone that is going to be working with this moving forward, especially those that have benefited from H1-B visa, business leaders that are currently now become like American citizens. A lot of them are not looking at this negatively because I think Andrew Ng, I don't know how to say his last name, but he's one of the lady business, one of the AI researchers that we have. I think he posted on LinkedIn that at least the way he posted this is not something that he supports, because he would never have been able to be in the US if they had that $100,000 tag on the requirement for an H1-B visa. So, and right now there are a lot of people that got a job through that, and now they're able to contribute to the US economy in a big way. But like you said in the beginning, this is meant to address the way the H1-B visa scheme has been, I would say, abused is the right way. And personally, if I'm going to be honest, I think they do have something to say about that, because I see a lot of people that post about it online that, oh, I'm an American, I don't have a job, I have a degree in STEM somewhere, but a bunch of people that came from outside the country that are getting jobs. So I definitely think there's some merit to those claims. And you have a situation, again, the vice president talked about it a little while ago, where Microsoft is laying off about 10 or 20,000 people, and then they are applying for like another 10,000 or something to that extent of H1B.
Yeah, I think Wally, that thing you mentioned is something that when I thought about it, I said, yeah, because I don't want to say I understand it fully. You and I know what's happening in the economy where, thousands of people are laid off in the STEM environment, especially in the tech environment. And more new hires are being recruited from same H1B visas abroad. And so you have those people who lost their job looking for another hire to keep their H1B visa going and all that. And so I've always thought about that. And I think the impact of this is significant, because it's not longer, just fire people, just because you want to. I don't want to say just because you want to fire, because sometimes I really don't understand why this laying off just happens. Just lay off people, hire fresh. I don't want to say I understand it, but what I know is those kind of actions, there'll be a rethink right now. Like, okay, are we hiring the right people to keep them, or are we going to just fire people because maybe it's cheaper to bring in younger, fresh, newer talent? Maybe, I don't know, but that will be thought about before being done or before being effected going forward with many of the companies that do that from time to time.
Yes, totally agree. It's a little bit hard to understand, but people will always say follow the money if you don't understand this kind of thing. So it's probably has to do with the bottom line of the company. But regardless, for all those, this is affecting those that study here now. They're trying to get a job, or you're trying to move to the United States as a professional. We wish you good luck, but most importantly, we really hope this is going to benefit the United States of America. The good thing about especially the president, at least from what I've learned, is that if things don't work, he's willing to change his mind. So if it doesn't work, I think he will be willing to change his mind and reinstate, at least make it a little bit, maybe implement something different that will be able to attract people that they need to supplement the workforce, while not disparaging, or at least it shouldn't affect the unemployment of citizens who are actually qualified to be able to take the job. So that's it for me.
All right, thank you everyone. Please stay tuned. It's going to bring you updates in this environment and on this H1B visa changes.
Yes, please like, share, subscribe. Please don't forget, this is strictly educational purposes and entertainment purposes. Have a good one.
All right, have a good one everyone.